here's how Pyro works in comp.
Oh god.
Basically, there's a certain task that you're expected to do, and that is to protect your medic. Right now, the problem with the fact that you've got your... the fucking degreaser change, the swish speed change. Can we agree that it locks you... if you want to air blast every rocket now, you cannot change away from your degreaser. You can't change away from your primary, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because the switch speed is way too fucking low. And I'm going to explain why that really screws
Well, I
you
mean,
over.
it's still boosted 30%
And I'm going to
from the initial switch speed. I mean...
But it's the 0.12 seconds prevents you from pulling it out. There are two modes when you're playing Pyro in a comp setting. There's the passive Pyro, which is you've got your degreaser out. You can't really do that much damage. There's almost no burst ability in that, because it's all just damage over time, and you're applying flames. So you're not doing much damage with the flamethrower, and you're certainly not doing enough damage in order to survive any fights. When you're talking about TF2's 1v1 matchups, Pyro's flamethrowers are significantly lower damage than any other classes in the game. Demo can way out damage you. Heavy can way out damage you. Soldier can way out damage you. So if we're just comparing Pyro's primaries compared to the rest of the game's primaries, you have the disadvantage of already needing to get closer to people. Like, you need to actually be right up somebody's ass before you can start doing any damage. Whereas other classes have chip damage. Soldier can be shooting 50 damage rockets at you, just off of splash, from like wherever the fuck he wants. Whereas you have to be right up on this guy's ass. So you've already got the disadvantage of needing to improve your positioning, needing to be right up somebody's ass, before you can even start doing damage. And now we're talking about the fact that the damage that you're doing is lower. So now if you turn a corner Soldier v Pyro, you're both turning the corner, both surprised. Pyro holds down M1, Soldier holds down M1. Pyro loses. Soldier walks away, admittedly on fire, but with, 50, 60 HP, something like that. Maybe 100 if he's good. It's ridiculous. That's the same for any other class in the game. So, primaries, the only damage source, the only burst damage source is reflecting, which, as you know, because of the fact that you can't reflect something that isn't shot at you, in a combat situation with the rest of the team, if a soldier chooses not to shoot a rocket at you, you now have no damage options, considering you can't get close to the other team. So now you're not doing any damage, but if you switch away from your degreaser, he's going to shoot a rocket at you. So now you're dead. Or, while you've got the flamethrower out, or degreaser, or whatever primary you want, a scout's just walked up to you and clicked you twice, and now you're dead. Or you took a pipe, or demo spam, or any number of any things in the game. So now we're talking, okay, second part, the aggressive Pyro, actually being able to do damage. That's in the Pyro's secondaries. The only way that a Pyro can do damage is through the flare gun or the shotgun, really. Let's just be honest. The burst 90 through 60 or whatever you're going to get on the shotgun, that is Pyro's burst damage. That's your entire ability to survive a 1v1 fight. Is being able to get close and do that burst 90 damage, or spam it at range and get your chip damage out. That's how Pyro does any damage. But if you've got your secondary out, you can't be air blasting, right? So if you've got your secondary out and you're doing damage, you get fucked. So now, since we've got the two different things, the reason that the degreaser previously, the pre-nerf degreaser, was actually effective and allowed Pyro to be even slightly viable as a class, was because it shortened the gap between these two types of Pyro. It sped up your switch speed, and it allowed you to switch from aggressive or passive Pyro and keeping yourself alive to doing damage really quickly and then going back to a passive. If a soldier was holding M1, you could reflect every rock and slip a flare in between and actually do something with your life. You could actually stand a chance of killing him. As it stands right now that they've completely separated the two types, doing damage isn't viable because we've already established that you get out-damaged by your flamethrower by any other class. So if you run on your flamethrower, your only choice is to play super passive and air blast everything until you eventually get killed by somebody else. Or you run out of ammo and get killed anyways. So let's talk about it in terms of comp. So now, as a Pyro, your job is to keep the medic alive. So you have 8 classes that are coming to fuck you up. and the guy you're trying to protect, right? Well, you can't touch hit scan classes, and you can't do any damage against them, so Scout automatically wins that fight. So does Shotgun Soldier, so does Heavy, so does, like, Sniper. You can no longer do anything about that. At least if a Scout had previously gone into you, could switch over to Aggressive Pyro, frag him, or at least get some damage out so he had to retreat. Now you can't do that. Now you're stuck with your fucking Flamethrower out. Now let's talk projectile classes. Projectile class starts coming for a medic. So you reflect everything, but you can't switch over to the aggressive Pyro. You can't do any damage.
Why am I not recording?
Apple is, luckily.
He is?
So now, yes, he is. So now
Can I
you're
have it?
stuck as a passive Pyro, trying to defend yourself against a person that you can't kill. You can't do enough damage to kill them because they'll just sit off at a distance and not let you damage them. So you're doing no damage and you're preventing a good amount of damage, but that's got a time limit on it of 8 air blasts, 10 air blasts, whatever. And that's if you land them. If you don't get the timing right, oops, fuck you. You wasted ammo and now you're screwed for the next one because you can't, the cooldown isn't fast enough. So you get screwed over because you can't do any damage. And you can't switch from passive to aggressive fast enough to not die doing it. It's fucking retarded, because now the new degreaser isn't able to bridge the gap. So what they need to do to make Pyro as a class viable in all situations with different flamethrowers is they need them all to bridge that gap. They need to bridge the gap between aggressive and defensive Pyro. That's not what they're focusing on. They want Pyro to be WM1, which isn't viable. It doesn't do enough damage to keep yourself alive in 1v1s. It doesn't do enough damage to support anybody on your team. It's just not enough. It's functionally retarded. So what they need to do, what I think they should do, is slap a plus switch speed onto the Pyro's secondaries, which is where all of your damage comes in, so that you make it easier to switch from passive to aggressive, and then certain flamethrowers, like the degreaser, would allow you to switch back from aggressive to passive quicker. So rework it so the degreaser stayed the way it was. The 0.23 second switch speed. Have the stock have like a 0.35 second, which is where the degreaser is right now. Have backburner have 0.35, have all the other ones have 0.35 second. So that at least you can still kind of combo with them, like you can try and you can still do some damage when you've got them out, or when you're running them rather. But have it so that the degreaser remains as the combat flamethrower, where you just do burst damage. It specializes in burst damage. You do the 90 a whole lot faster, and you can defend yourself a lot quicker. But it's slightly more expensive air blast, and far lower damage over time. Your afterburn is useless, basically. So you have to kill them there, or they live. Have the stock have the 0.35 second, so that you can do some damage with your secondary, albeit a little bit slower, so that it traces approximately, I have a graph here that shows the different methods of Pyro doing damage per tick, and then damage accumulated over however many ticks.
Mm-hmm.
Have it follow so that the stock flamethrowers just holding M1 matches approximately with getting your burst damage out on flamethrower and flare gun or shotgun or whatever. And so that way you're viable to do some damage while keeping yourself passive, with a focus on air blasting, cheaper air blasts, as well as a focus on higher damage over time, more support. That's your more passive one. And then you've got the flank Pyro, which is your back burner. So then you talk about your flank aggressive back burner, which is you keep the back burner crits on, well, backs. Have 0.35 seconds, so you can still kind of combo with it in case you get into a hairy situation on flank. But it's heavily de-incentivized, whatever. It's the 50 air blast cost is an incentive to not combo that much. It's locking you into not being able to air blast very much, so you're locked into the WM1, maybe a combo in a sticky situation thing. So all of a sudden, Now those 3 flamethrowers are all viable because they're all able to do some comboing. However, it's kind of balanced and there's a reason to pick between the two. Log can just go eat a dick and or give it 0.35 second, no air blast, and I don't know, minus 25 HP or something. Digressor had a really good suggestion about that. So remove some HP so they can't just go tank everything. There you go. Pyro's balanced, viable. Everybody's happy because Air Blast doesn't stun lock people anymore. And
Is that is that like a thing with Pyro where like they don't give a shit about the stun lock? Or is that
stun lock, I honestly think that the stun lock on the flamethrower is kind of, or on Air Blast rather, is kind of silly. Well, doing it once to stall an Uber, okay, stun lock them once. But the consecutive having no stun lock, that's good. I do like that because it doesn't... I like that for a couple of different reasons. More selfishly, because now people can't say that air blasting somebody and fragging them takes no skill because they were stun locked. But on a more general basis, it's going to make people far less annoyed at Pyro. It's going to raise the skill ceiling on Pyro. And it's generally going to be... It's just better. It honestly is. You can still air blast people away, but they don't get stun locked, so they can strafe. If you try and push them off an edge, they can strafe. Holy shit, my phone just vibrated on my keys. That scared the crap out of me. But yeah, that change was good. They can keep the extra flamethrower or extra air blast cost on degreaser, because that's part of the thing about it, is it's slightly more expensive.